Hey everybody, this is Thomas Andrick, your voice for the PPC in Whitby, Friday, February 25th. Today, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, take my eyes off a little bit off of Ottawa, and I'm going to concentrate more on what everybody's watching at the moment. That's the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But I'm going to look at it under a different light, going to put it under the microscope, and going to try to examine it in a different way. You see, we come from Eastern Europe, Hungary, and that region. So we see things differently. We examine things differently. We think differently. And it's going to put a perspective on it that you're not going to see or hear on mainstream media. So bear with me. Don't think I'm completely crazy. And I just want you to keep an open mind. So when I talk about it, you start thinking a little bit differently. Because what do we see right now? The MSM and all the Western leaders are talking the same way, that we have a dictator and authoritarian. We have a Stalin reincarnated within Vladimir Putin, leader of Russia. Everybody is saying the same thing, that he is the cause of everything. He's crazy, insane, and he had no right to go and invade and put a siege on the Ukraine and invade it. Don't get me wrong, war is never the answer. Nobody comes out well at the end of a war or during a war. War hurts everybody. Let that be physically, let that be economically. War is terrible. Diplomacy is always the answer. We should never be looking to war. War is the final and last means to be able to come to an agreement. It's the final resort. However, let's take a look at this Russia-Ukraine conflict, because there are a number of points that I want to show you, a number of points I want to quickly talk about, so you get an idea of where I'm coming from, where many of us see this whole conflict arising from, and why perhaps the West looks at it on a completely different lens. All right? Point number one, let's look at NATO. We know that since the fall and the dismemberment of the USSR, the Soviet Union, Russia has been asking NATO to stay away from its borders, to keep a distance from the borders. They asked NATO to not put military bases in the former Eastern European country, Eastern European bloc. If you look at it, take a look at the map of Eastern Europe, so the Baltic countries from the north all the way down through Poland, former Czechoslovakia, so Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, etc., all along the borders of the Ukraine and Russia, you're going to see numerous U.S. bases, NATO bases, and forces all set up along the Russian border. We also know that over the last number of years, NATO has been courting Ukraine. Ukraine wants in, NATO wants Ukraine in. Russia has been saying, back off. We don't want NATO in our backyard. Never mind backyard, they're right on our border. They're right in front of our door, at our front door. They're ringing the bell. We're not going to let them in. Back off. They feel that this is a threat. They feel that this is aggression from NATO's part and the USA's part. Imagine, having the situation reversed. Having, let's say, China right along the US-Canada border. Would we not say back off? Would we feel that is aggression? Would we not feel threatened? Of course we would. Back off. Russia is enforcing and asserting its will and its thoughts and its fears as well through this invasion of Ukraine. Understand this. Point number one. So, NATO. Point number two. We're getting more into the economics. Here we have oil and gas pipelines. All oil and gas goes through the Ukraine to Western Europe. Western Europe does not have its own gas and oil resources. It just doesn't. It gets all of its gas and oil from Russia. one of the reasons why they built the Nord Stream 2 pipeline under or they were building it at least, they wanted to have it built under the Northern Sea so that they could get around the Ukraine and have gas and oil come from Russia, directly from Russia. You don't have to go through the Ukraine. There are always issues with the Ukraine. Ukraine would close the taps off, not once, not twice, but many times. Steal oil and steal gas off of these pipelines, cause major problems. But also we have the USA. USA wants in on this economic prosperity. They also want money off of this. That's why Nord Stream 2 was shut down, because now all of a sudden, especially under President Trump, they're saying, okay, well, buy our gas, buy our oil. We'll get it to you for fairly cheap and we'll make an alliance with you. Western Europe and the West wants those pipelines to secure gas and oil for Western Europe. It has nothing to do with the Ukrainian people, by the way. It has everything to do with Western Europe wanting the security of those pipelines. So they want to be in. They want to have Ukraine join the Western alliances to ensure that that is the West, controls the pipelines. Russia saw this. Russia had foresight. Putin went in. And he's going to ensure that nobody takes those pipelines. Nobody controls the pipelines but them. That's what happened with Crimea, by the way. Crimea, trillions of cubic meters of gas underneath the ocean there, underneath the water. We saw 2014. The West wanted it. Russia came in and just basically took it back. Foresight. Do you not think the USA would have done the same thing? Do you not think the Western countries would have done the same thing? Of course they would have. Protecting their own interest. This is natural. I'm sorry, but that's how the world works. It has nothing to do with the Ukrainian people. It has everything to do with politics and economics. Biolabs. There are many biolabs in the Ukraine, not Russian biolabs. I can only imagine what's being built or being manufactured there. Those biolabs are Western biolabs. Russia's not having it. Why? Again, they feel threatened. They feel aggression. They feel that they could be used against Russia at any time. So we have that point as well. We also have the way the Ukraine has been handling the situation with ethnic minorities in the Ukraine. So I already talked about Crimea. We also have the other two provinces or territories that declared independence. We have Donetsk and Luhansk. They declared and they wanted independence from the Ukraine. Why? Because there are ethnic Russians living there. They speak Russian. It's Russian majority territory. Don't forget, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union.